Good morning, everyone. This is John with Gun.Deals. Today we have yet another update on the deservedly maligned Sig P320. Now, before we get into all of that, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe, as that is free and it does help us out quite a bit, and nothing you can comment down below will help the P320. But now let's go ahead and get into the update. This is by way of Protraband, a fantastic YouTuber and engagement hacking grifter, with a alleged update on some of the happenings with the 320. Quick update, the company is holding off of all shipments of 320s as of right now. We have 18,000 320s that are being held and having the safety levers checked for missing material. The main reason is that FBI report that came out. I don't know when this went into action. I just heard this an hour ago at work. Now, this comes from a alleged inside source that has been very good on other information in the past. But yes, 18,000 320s are being held, an entire company's worth, simply to check for missing material that's going to lead them to do things you don't necessarily want them to do. Of the many convoluted, semi-useful safeties within the 320, the two that are the most likely culprits are the striker safety and striker safety spring, which sometimes are included, sometimes aren't, sometimes are bent, sometimes are missing material, and are likely the cause of some of these issues. Now, the FBI was able to do a deep dive on an officer's P320 that allegedly had a uncommanded discharge. Now, this was done at their own research facility with the alien gear holster supplied. Very important to note was that the handgun was supplied to the FBI in its original configuration, meaning that it still had a spent shell casing within the chamber, within the exact same holster in which the officer suffered a UD. So again, a completely untouched P320 still within the holster that they could do x-rays and all of their very in-depth testing on. Throughout the report, they go into the background of what exactly the firearm was, how many rounds it had fired, somewhere between 12 and 1,400, so fairly early on in its life cycle. The pistols had just been adopted by the MSP before they started to have some issues. Now, one of the very important things for me is that the FBI did reach out to Sig and to Alien Gear, the holster manufacturer, to see if they wanted to be part of the testing and evaluation of the firearm. Now, you would think that if someone is alleging that your firearm went off on its own, you would want to be part of that investigation to make sure that it is done properly. However, Alien Gear did help with the investigation. Sig Sauer declined the opportunity. Now, the entire document provided by the FBI is 32 pages in length and very, very in-depth. While they do point out many potential issues with the P320, it is somewhat inconclusive in proving a UD actually happened in that specific instance, but it is useful in proving how these UDs can happen out in the wild. Something else that was quite interesting in all of this is that the P320 can go off without a complete trigger press. So if you pull the trigger somewhere between 50 and 75% and jostle the slide a little bit, well, the striker is going to go forward on its own. Again, only pulling the trigger 50 to 75% of the way can get it to go off. Now, I also have a P320, and I can pull the trigger most of the way and get it to go off on its own. That striker is now forward, and if I finish pulling the trigger, you'll get that dead trigger click. And I would encourage you to go read the entire 32-page report from the FBI, as it is very well done, very well researched. These are experts that are relatively unbiased, and their findings are very interesting. Now, something else to come out of all of this is that U.S. Immigrations and Custom Enforcement has also decided to drop, literally and figuratively, the P320 for the Glock 19. So they are going back to what they had originally. I believe they had 17s for special officers and 19s for everybody else, but they are going back to the Gen 5 19 MOSs. All of this comes after the FBI's bombshell report, and keep in mind that ICE has had a issue with some of their P320s allegedly UDing in the past, so this is sort of all coming to a head, so to speak. But it doesn't even end there. It's not just the police, it's not just ICE, it's also the US military, which is, I believe, currently the biggest buyer of M17 and M18 style pistols. On June 2nd, 2024, 3 M17 rear sight plates fell off during range qualifications for the redacted unit, and these 3 are the subjects in question. The rack of 16 M17s were inspected with the following findings. 3 of the M17s, where the sights fell off, the screws were found to have no threads on them. 5 additional sight plates of weapons in that rack were found to be loose and have some threads missing on the screws. So quite literally half of the 16 M17s pulled from the rack had varying levels of the same issue, that being, no threads on your optic plate screws, which is not very conducive to them staying on your military-issued sidearm. And that's the latest chapter in the Sig P320 story. However, keep in mind that the Marine Corps is also recommending an engineering review for their handguns that have also allegedly suffered UDs. So with all of that going forward, gentlemen, let me know what you think of the P320, M17, M18 in the comments down below. And with all that out of the way, gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. I will see you in the next one. Peace off. I mean, it's